Well, hello YouTube. How is everybody doing today? It's your old hillbilly buddy Leo out here today, and I will be your humble host. As you can see, I am at the hanging site of Ellison Mounts. Matter of fact, today I stand in Pikeville, Kentucky at the very location where Ellison Cottontop Mounts met his maker. Now, we've explored his story in depth before, and you can find that link in the description below. But today, we won't dive too deep into that. Instead, we wanted to reflect on the weight of that moment and the significance of this place. On February 18th, 1890, 135 years ago, just a few days ago, we were going to come over on the anniversary, but you know how it is. We got snowed on, then we got flooded, then we got some more snow. You know how it is. So we're just a couple days behind. So anyway, Ellison Cottontop Mounts met his fate right here at the gallows in Pikeville, Kentucky. He was the illegitimate son of Ellison Hatfield, the brother of notorious feud leader Lance Hatfield. The feud reached a boiling point in 1882 when Cottontop's father was murdered by three of Randall McCoy's sons. In a brutal act of revenge, the Hatfields captured the three McCoy boys and tied them to pawpaw trees before delivering their mountain justice death verdict. However, the most notorious incident, the one that got Cottontop in trouble, unfolded on New Year's Day in 1888, when a group of men from the Hatfield clan attacked Randall McCoy's cabin. They set it on fire, and in the process they claimed the lives of two of Randall McCoy's adult children, and leaving his wife for dead, which she never recovered fully and died a couple years later, and another daughter named Cora, who died a couple months after the incident. So if you count those, the Hatfields killed 3 children and his wife that night. Cottontop, alongside others, faced indictment for their involvement in this horrific raid on the McCoy house. But it was Ellison Mounts alone who would face the execution for these acts. His hanging signified a grim turning point. While it stopped much of the violence, the bitter legacy of the Hatfield-McCoy blood feud continued to cast a long shadow, with many murders in its wake for years to come. Some saw Cottontop as an easy target for his confession. Even today, historians argue about whether he should have faced capital punishment, considering his supposed mental state. His execution highlights the deep rifts that can grow between families when blind hatred simmers unchecked, and what locals call bad blood continues to build. Now, Cottontop's story has inspired multiple films and documentaries, and today, of course, the Hatfield and McCoy TV series with Kevin Costner. Cottontop's portrayal in the miniseries stirred up a lot of mixed feelings, though. On one hand, he was shown as a gentle soul struggling with his intellectual challenges. It seemed the filmmakers amplified these traits to try to evoke sympathy. Yet this version was in direct opposition to what some members of the Hatfield family remember. They recount a totally different Cottontop, one who was fierce and fully aware of his actions. He understood right and wrong was clear to them. His understanding was clear to them. The contrast between the two versions, though, is like day and night. A tender-hearted, slow-witted character versus a man who knew the depths of just how wrong his actions really were. The duality added layers to Cottontop's story, inviting viewers and readers alike to question what they saw on screen and in print about him. Conflict can drive people to make some very unwise choices. But why did he face the executioner while others who were equally guilty walked free? That question lingers unanswered to this day. What is undeniable is that Cottontop was not the only one who took a life that day. He simply bore the brunt of the law's wrath. His execution marked a grim end to the Hatfield-McCoy feud, but it also exposed a harsh truth that neither side won. The newspaper at the time said he was taken by his mom's side of the family and buried within eyeshot of where he was hanged, which would be that cemetery right there in an unmarked grave. Somewhere right over there in that graveyard, right there in the center of your screen, let me make sure I got it centered. There's a graveyard right in the center of your screen. Somewhere in that graveyard lies the unmarked grave of Ellison Cottontop Mounts. Now, according to the old articles that we read, that on the day he was hanged, they could actually see the place where he was to be buried. They could see his grave from here where he was hanged at. I see a graveyard. There's a graveyard right there. It's well within sight, and there's a whole bunch of graves there that aren't marked. But we're going to go up there here just in a second and kind of take a look. But there's something I wanted to point out, about the feud that I've had a lot of people ask me over the years. Who won? You see, there were no winners. That they both lost. They both 100% lost the feud. But I suppose if you look at it from a purely military standpoint, Devil Anse and well, not necessarily Devil Anse, but we'll say Hatfields and Devil Anse's clan, you know what I mean? They got 3 of Randall McCoy's children in one day twice. To me, losing 6 children in 2 days, there's no more, you can't get any worse than that. You can't lose much more than that unless you lose the rest of your children. It's the only way you could lose more than that. So I guess from a purely military standpoint, the Hatfields kind of won the feud, sort of. But if you think about it, they were chased, bounty hunters searching for them, hiding. But the place has changed a lot, obviously, over the last 135 years. The Pikeville College stands here now. This is the college campus. And just to point out, how much things change, how much the place has changed. The exact site of where the gallows was has been lost. It's, in theory, it's within rock throwing distance, we'll say, of this sign. The exact spot is another question, because the place has changed, obviously. But anyhow, I just wanted to show you guys the site where the actual hanging took place. And I'm going to go here just in a second. We're going to run up to the old graveyard and kind of look around. Now, like I said, I brought y'all up here in the other video where we did a much more intense, we'll say, research into Cottontop. But for this episode, like I said, it's a 135 year anniversary. So we thought it would be a good time to kind of run out here and tell you guys a little bit about Cottontop and just kind of revisit this story. But anyhow, I'm going to go down here. I had to park way down there. The school's in today, so I had to park way down the road. So I'm going to go out, go back up around the hill and park up on the hill somewhere. The spot where we're going, if you notice, you see right here where you can see the graveyard. Now this is the old Pikeville City Cemetery right here on the hill. There's several other notable people here, quite a few as a matter of fact. But it's an old historic graveyard, old historic town as a matter of fact. The whole town is, and you can look and see, you know, the old stonework, and wonder how many years those stairs have been there. Look at that. I'm guessing they've been there a while. It's a very pretty place though, isn't it? You know, a little subdivision here. You can see the Mustang, little teensy speck of red way down the road. But anyway, all right, I'm gonna run down, get in the car, and run up on top of the hill where the graveyard is and tell you the rest of the story, just like Paul Harvey. Okay, now this is back up on top of the hill where the cemetery is. You can see the Alara Library right here, and there's the stairs where you come up to the Pikeville College, and this is the graveyard directly behind it, and there's the city of Pikeville, Kentucky, all around the graveyard. It's almost like the town was built around the graveyard, isn't it? Kind of looks that way, don't it? It does kind of look that way. But anyhow, I wanted to start here on this graveyard, and we'll wander over to the other side. This is one of the other, remember I mentioned there were several notable characters up here in this graveyard? Well, this is just one of them. There's several more. This right here, guys, this is Octavia Hatcher and her husband James and their son Jacob. Now James here, he was a notable businessman here in Pikeville, Kentucky. He had a business that you could actually see from the grave, her grave. He could look up and see it. Anyway, there was a rumor, legend, I guess is a better word. You know, it's what brought our attention to it. It's, you know, an old legend that you've heard of sleeping sickness. Well, apparently, you know, there was fears of sleeping sickness back in the day, and she was, according to legend, she had clawed at her coffin trying to get out and all this kind of stuff, and dug up, reinterred. None of it turned out to be true. Heather and I, we couldn't, you know, if you reinter someone, there's this, and there's no paperwork, there's no paper trail, none of that stuff. But anyway, the grave had been vandalized at one point. You see the baby right here? This is the baby. This is Jacob. Oh, sorry, let me get out of the light. This is Jacob's grave right here. That little statue of baby Jacob laying on a pillow, see this where it's broken? It was broken off. She was holding her baby at one point, and someone broke it off. Someone vandalized it, and it was changed to put that there, and then the fence was added around the grave later. It's just a shame though, isn't it? You know, just because of, you know, an old silly legend, and somebody's grave gets defaced. You know, just, to me, it's just total disrespect. You know, I try to be respectful. You know, you try to respect Octavia, you know, just as much as you would a living person, you would think. Of course, I guess some people don't really look at it that way, do they? Like most legends, there's a little bit of truth, and this was one of those cases where there was just a little bit of truth into it. Of course, you know, there was no sleeping sickness or clawing at the coffin to get out or any of that stuff. That turned out to be nonsense. It's just kind of strange though, isn't it? The way humanity works, you know? Mass delusion, I guess, is about the only way you could explain it. Of course, there's a lot of people that claim they've seen her ghost up here before. That's right. A lot of people claim the place is haunted and they have seen her ghost up here before. I'll be right back. The angel on it. There's another one too. There's a plaque up here. It's a man named Pleasant Childers supposedly has a plaque up here somewhere. He's an ancestor of mine from the Revolutionary War. He's a Revolutionary War hero. I've looked for his grave several times. Have yet to find it. Well, I think it's a marker as opposed to a grave. We'll go down right here. Go through the fence. And you can see the little subdivision from up here. And I don't know how well y'all can see it right there. See that building? Look directly in front of it, just to the left of the two phone poles together, and you'll see the historical marker. Right there is where we started this video, looking up here. Now, we're going to assume here that, let me get back here a little bit, back off a little bit. I need a little bit more aspect ratio. It's a cinematographer term. Okay, now this should do right here. This should do just fine. What you're looking at right now is what would be in direct line of sight, the graveyard, in direct line of sight of the gallows where Cottontop Mounts was hanged, where he was executed, right there for the murder of Alifair. I've shown you this before. Guys, you are looking somewhere in your video right now, somewhere on your screen. I don't know. I can't be much more specific than this. Somewhere on your screen right now is the lost grave, the lost unmarked grave of Ellison Cottontop Mounts. He is somewhere. Well, worst case scenario, let me just do this, just so we're 100%. Back here by the old dead tree, somewhere in there is the grave, because this is all, like I said, you can see the sign. This is all in a direct line of sight with the sign. Could you imagine you're on the gallows and you're waiting to be hanged, to be executed, and you look over your right shoulder while you're standing the gallows. You got the noose on your left. You look over to the right, you see your grave. I bet that would, yeah, bet that would bring the reality of the moment home real fast and real hard, wouldn't it? You know, you kind of second guessing some of the stuff you did. You know, when they went to the house, you know, to murder the family, you know, I mean, what do you expect's going to happen? You know, you went to murder a whole family. What do you think's going to happen? You know, society's not going to tolerate that. You murdered a kid. Well, not a kid, but, you know, you murdered a young lady. Or you got blamed for it anyway. But Ellison's death, it did do one thing in particular. It did simmer the tensions down just a little bit, because, you know, once there was some, it looked as though there was going to be some justice, some accountability. And when one of the Hatfields was made to pay for what was perceived to be, you know, you get where I'm going here, that kind of diffused a lot of the feuding. But it's a beautiful day to be out doing it, and I have a couple more stops to do. So guys, I guess I better get on out of here and head on out to my next stop. And I appreciate you guys coming along. We'll see y'all a little bit later. See you at the next stop, I should say. Leo out for now.